And good evening. This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. We used to have a radio show. We used to have a blog. We used to have a whole lot of things. But nowadays we just have a podcast. I heard when people grow up, when people have their radio shows, they grow up and they eventually become podcasts. That's what I heard from a lot of different people. So I guess I'm following this model. Big shout out to WGBB 1240 AM. Had a great time rocking with you guys. In the queue, we got a good friend and current radio host, 98.5 The Wire, Danny Thompson. Danny, what's going on?
Mr. Hicks, Ted, it's always a pleasure. I guess pretty soon I'll be retiring myself to go back to podcasting again. I guess that's the pattern.
I don't know, and I think that's a recurring theme we might touch upon tonight. But, dude, as always, great to have you Beyond the Buzzer radio show. Love it on Saturdays at 11
a.m.
11 a.m. Eastern Time? I was about to say 10,
Yes.
but I said no. There's so many times at 10 o'clock you and I are speaking. I said it can't be at that time.
Yeah, no, it's 11.
It's 11. So it's 11 a.m. Eastern, Saturdays, 98.5 The Wire, in Orlando, Florida.
Yes, sir.
Always. Depending. I was planning to be down there next month, to hook up with you, have another great time of walking around downtown Orlando and going to the different bars with it. Then walked in something called the coronavirus. And
yes, I know.
I don't know because my company, there's a huge conference that was coming up that just got canceled. Everything is being canceled across the board from many different companies in various industries. How are you guys holding up with, really avoiding the coronavirus in Orlando, Florida?
The most important thing as of right now is that we haven't had an outbreak here. There was an outbreak in Tampa earlier in the week. I think they quarantined that person, and they basically held. They're still in the quarantine process, so we haven't had any cases out here. Knock on wood. But okay. You never know from one second to the next.
It's true. And as much as people don't want to say, I don't have a medical degree, but as much as people don't want to say it's airborne, it kind of seems like it. I keep hearing terms like, droplets and all this other stuff, but there have been so many higher education institutions and K-12 institutions that have been closed due to this threat. So all of you, the most we could say is wash your hands, stay healthy, stay thirsty also.
Be careful.
Yeah. So, hey, I want to get into a couple of topics. I guess I'll go what up is down, what back is forward. Danny, you're a great mind. You understand the production side of putting together a show because you put your show together every week. I want you to help fix WWE Backstage because this past week's show pulled a whopping 18,000 viewers. The new all-time low. 18,000, Danny. You got 18,000 people that listen to your radio show on Saturday.
I was about to say, I'm on a low-power station. I think I get 18,000 listeners. And we're only like, 25, 30 blocks total? Jeez. How do you fix that? Well, number one, it shouldn't be on at 11, 12 o'clock at night. That's the first problem you got.
Okay.
Unless you're doing a WWE talk show, it turns like a late-night talk show, which is like a good idea. You got to move it to a certain time. Every other show WWE does literally is, 8 o'clock at night throughout the week?
Right.
The other problem is there's so much wrestling on. I'm not going to say it's overkill, but the WWE has what, Monday and Friday nights, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday nights. You got AEW on Wednesdays. It's like there's wrestling on almost every single night of the week, and it's like, you know, it's like it's I don't know. I don't know if they're oversaturating the market, but they got to get to that time slot. 1 and 2, CM Punk needs to be on there on a regular basis. Wherever check that's got to be cut, you got to put him on there because he's going to he's a lightning rod. And I'm not big on this whole. It feels like it's like watching Access Hollywood with just WWE wrestlers. I need something a little bit more than that. I need something more. I need Triple H to try to take this over like he does NXT. Him and Steven Regal will just fix this problem. But yeah, changing time is one thing. Changing up the format, and we need more CM Punk.
So you would be okay with Tuesdays, but earlier.
I mean, if you put it on at 8:00, I mean that way at least you're going to get the entire Eastern time zone. Yeah, you'll miss the Western, you'll miss the West Coast, but I mean you could re-air it at 8 and 11.
So are you saying to me? I haven't yet watched it live. I haven't had the opportunity to watch it live. Is the reason why they're doing it at 11 o'clock? Are they cursing on there? Is it like no holds bar? What am I missing?
I mean, really, I think really because FS1 doesn't have a late. You know, they used to have 11 o'clock sports show. Now it's gone. So you're trying to fill programming on a channel that does have sports, that does have different things going on. So when you don't have anything going on, 11 o'clock is normally the hour of the news. It's normally the hour of like Sports Center on ESPN in most cases. So it's trying to combat against that, but they got to come up with something better than that. I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, it has to be like an 8 o'clock show. And really, you got to find some kind of way of creativity because I don't want to watch matches because I watch matches 3 nights a week already with the WWE. We don't need a 4th night of matches. To be honest with you, I would rather them do a post show on Friday nights after SmackDown more than just a backstage show. Go bring back Talking Smack. That's what if they did a live version of Talking Smack that was on WWE Network, I think it'd be a lot better. And do it right after SmackDown.
So tell me this much: does it feel? I mean, and this might be a stupid question. Does it feel? And that's Oliver. Big shout out to Oliver. Does it feel more like a Fox show than a WWE show?
It feels like a bad production. It feels like a B-list production show. It's like, they have all these ideas and just throw it together. It's a Fox show, but it's poorly executed. It's a Fox show that's treated like a show on Fox Soccer Channel.
Got you. Okay. Because I'm sitting here saying all the other Fox Sports 1 shows are produced with pretty decent, to good quality.
But you know what, Ted? But if you look at the numbers, with the exception of Undisputed, most of those shows don't get very, very good ratings.
Okay.
Where's the morning show rating compared to Get Up and to Good Morning Football?
Yeah, it's a distant third of the 3.
And that's crazy because NFL Network's not even half the homes as FS1.
I know. But, I mean, as we kind of segue away, I think they found, and it took them about 4 or 5 years, but they found the right personalities for Good Morning Football, and it rocks.
I agree. I mean, Ted, can you imagine if this is a Good Morning Football was simulcast on ESPN2, for example, how many homes it would be watched by on every single morning?
Yes.
It would double. Both. I think it would do more than the FS1 show. I can't remember the morning show's name, and Get Up. I think it would double theirs combined at the end of the day.
I mean, and nowadays, when we delve into syndication, I mean, you kind of get more with less. I think if you did do, like if there was some type of sharing deal, I think that would be a great idea for ESPN. You know, but I know
they paid Mike Greenberg too much money.
Yeah, way too much money for what he's doing. Way too much money for a 2-hour show. 2-hour show. I don't know. I'll leave that one there. Want to touch base with you with, I'm going to say 2 words. James Dolan.
Boy.
I've never heard so much. I mean, and me being in New York, I'm used to hearing about James Dolan, but it's never anything good. You know, I thought this week with Leon Rose coming on board finally, because he's been talked about for the last 6 weeks coming on board, it was going to be a great week, but I've seen within the last, I'm going to say 72 hours, 2 different sets of fans get thrown out of the arena for telling him to sell the team. And then we saw that dust up on Twitter. We saw a video on Twitter about Spike Lee, and we saw all of that the next day on First Take. It's just ugly. Danny, it's like, why does James Dolan feel like it's okay to throw fans out of his arena just because they're suggesting him to sell a team? And by no means are we saying Jim Dolan's a racist, because he's the equal opportunity asshole.
He is. It's you know, when you're a professional, when you're in this media spotlight, like you gotta have thick skin. This is the softest person I know with billions of dollars in the history of the world, I think. Like, you know, this man's a musician. So you're telling me if I boo him at a concert, he's throwing me out of the building?
Dude.
You know?
Chances are.
Leon.
I said chances are, if it's one of his venues, then potentially.
It's you know, Leon Rose, you know, you're right. The Knicks this week were like, man, Leon Rose is walking into a situation where it's like, okay, I have a chance to rejuvenate the Knicks. I'm getting Charles Oakley and Dolan in the same room together because we all, the Knicks know and the fans know that Oakley is going to be the key to what's going to happen in 2021 with free agency. We saw what happened last time. The Knicks were shut out because, you know, the way you treat Charles Oakley, which is a Knick legend, is just preposterous. Now you have, not to mention one of the Knick legends, now you have the ultimate super fan. Not just the ultimate Knicks super fan, the ultimate sports super fan. A man who says, I spend $300,000, $300K on Knicks tickets every year, and we're talking about an employee entrance. Yeah, come on. An employee entrance, like I would say in practice, an employee entrance. It's not like Spike Lee's asking to come in on a hoverboard or a hovercraft or be flown in by jets or have the building open, the roof open for him to fly in. He's going into an area because he's Spike Lee. I know it's VIP, I know it's other sections, but it's not like Spike Lee is doing something, you know, unordinary. He's been a season ticket holder for what, Ted, 30 years?
28 years. 28 years we've been seeing Spike go back and forth with Reggie Miller, go back and forth with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, and through the years.
And Charles Barkley. He's an attraction. And like James Dolan, and you know what, and the fans are saying, fire Dolan? Listen, for those Knicks ticket prices, I should be able to say what I want to. The Knicks have arguably the highest ticket price in sports. They're arguably the worst team in the NBA. But guess what? They sell it every single night, so Dolan can treat people the way it is. You know, the NBA got Donald Sterling out of there because of the fact of racial situations with him, and basically being a racist. It is what it is. Can the Knicks, can the NBA get, you know, because I think Oakley said today, trying to see if Adam Silver can find a way to get this man to sell the team. You know what? Listen, if we want Dolan to sell the team, We got to get as many billionaires together to put an offer together to get Dolan out of there.
It's going to take $5 billion. It's going to take $5 billion. It's going to take $5 billion.
Listen, I'm sure if somebody came to the table with the $5 billion, I guarantee you the Knicks fans would be overjoyed, and they would even pay higher season ticket prices for Dolan to be out the door. If it meant for them to raise season ticket prices to get this man out of here because the new owner is going to need to recoup that money, I think the Knicks fans will do it just to get him out of there. I think they would. It's time. The Knicks are going to strike out in 2021. Even with Leon Rose and all his connections, all the players that he has in his arsenal, guys that he had with part of CAA, even talking about bringing Carmelo Anthony back, the Knicks are going to strike out in 2021 because the owner is the worst in professional sports. I don't see it getting any better. They got to find a way to get rid of him. They just got to find some kind of way to get rid of this man, or just get him enough money to get him out the door.
Without a doubt, to sell the team solely is going to be $5 billion. So that's
not even counting the Garden.
Right. Right. You're right.
I just don't know, as a guy who loves my sports, and I love sports to death, I don't know if I would spend $5 billion on a team without a building.
Of course not. Of course not. I mean, unless you're Steve Ballmer. I mean, and in that situation, it wasn't, it was close to what, 2.6, 2.4, 2.2?
Something like that. It was the twos.
This is Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. We're talking to Danny Thompson. So, Danny, you and I in pre-pro were talking about some movement going on in the NBA. We're still sticking with the NBA. I wanted you to touch upon, you mentioned something last night about Portland potentially being for sale.
There was an article on Clutch Points, I think it was. They're saying that, it happens. Paul Allen was the owner of the Portland TrailBlazers, who unfortunately passed away. I think almost 2 years ago, if not it was a year plus ago. It was a while ago. And his sister she owns the team basically. She's the managing partner. She runs the team. And there was a report saying that potentially she is in the market potentially selling the team. I mean, the $2 billion number is a big number, and for someone who's not she's not really a basketball fan, but she's doing it on her, from her brother. But if somebody's not a big basketball fan, that means it's an opportunity for somebody to come in and take the Blazers. The same way I feel like the Orlando Magic's going to have the same feel within the next, I'd say, 24 months, because Rich DeVos passed away, and the family, the wife and everybody else, are not really big on basketball. You got to think the sister's Secretary of Education, and everybody has other interests other than basketball. The Magic will be up for sale pretty soon as well, too. I think I said within 24 months, I think it's coming. Once they finish the entertainment center downtown in Orlando, which is going to be kind of their version of LA Live, that's where they sell the team because they get way more money for it. But the real question is, if Mrs. Allen puts the team up for sale, how tempting is it going to be to turn down the money from people who live right up the coastline in a city called Seattle? That's really the question, because let's be honest. I mean, Seattle's been begging for a team for years.
Right.
I don't know if Adam Silver is going to allow anybody who buys that team to move it, because Portland's been such a great market, and they have a great fan base, and they put people in seats every single night. But that is a lot of money up in Seattle. In the whole entire area, there are billionaires upon billionaires upon billionaires, including one named Chris Hansen, that would love to get his hands on a team and get that team right up I-5 or I-10 to get them up to Seattle. It's a very, very dangerous situation up there, especially if she's willing to put that team on the market.
Yeah, and if we were talking about this in the past, I would say, yeah, but Key Arena. But I think the NHL gifted them with, a hockey team, a Major League Hockey team. So is the new arena, have they started to, did they break ground yet? Like, what?
I would say it's completed. I don't know if they're playing Key Arena. That's a really good question as far as NHL goes because of, let's see, let me think here. I don't know if Seattle got a new arena for hockey.
Because the only way, Key Arena is there. Because I think that's where the Storm play, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
That's where the Seattle Storm play. So the real deal comes down to, you could, if you're a new team, an incoming team into the league, you could play there for a season or two while your stadium is being constructed. But I don't think they would have a chance if there was no, plans for a new stadium not to be constructed and you're just going to play in the Key Arena and then just that's going to be that. I think that's a non-starter.
Well, the looks of things is supposed to be the new Seattle Center, the new arena at Seattle Center, which means it's basically an upgraded version of Key Arena.
So are they just building on top of the foundation? Like kind of gutting it and building on top of it?
I think they regutted the entire – I think they regutted it.
Oh, okay. And I tell you, when you do that, it's a lot cheaper too.
Yeah, so it was a demolition, and I think they're rebuilding it. So,
okay. And for people that know about construction, like if you're building a house, all you need to do is leave one portion of a wall up, something that's protruding from the ground upward, and it's a totally different price point versus new construction. We touched upon in L.A. because I kind of get the feeling in L.A. is kind of the same issue whenever I go to see the Jets, the New York Football Jets, and when they play along with the Giants at MetLife, when you have two teams sharing a facility, one person owns it outright and the other one feels like a tenant. No matter, however you cut up the, the revenue and everything else like that. But Steve Ballmer is in negotiations with one James Dolan to purchase the Forum. Is that an idea you like, dislike, and tell us why?
I think it's if he's going to buy it for concert purposes, yes, but to move the Clippers in that building, it'd be the biggest mistake he can make. Listen, those Clippers are always little brother to the Lakers, regardless of what happens. Even if they win the championship this year, the Clippers will always be little brother to the Lakers. Look at the number of banners. Look at everything else. If Steve Ballmer buys the Forum with the intention of moving the Clippers into that building, that's the equivalent of being it's like the equivalent of your big brother having a car, and instead of you getting your own car, you're waiting for him to give you his when he gets a brand new car.
So to hand me that,
Ted, why would you want to move into a building the Lakers have won championships in? You're already going to be. You might as well go ahead and build you a brand new arena over by where the Rams and Chargers are playing. Over by where go where the Rams and Chargers are, in that new big old area, and go build an arena out that way. That would just be a complete. It would be a complete mess if he bought the Forum for the Clippers. It would just be a mess.
I still, I kind of like the idea. I like the idea because you can still go the same route that we were just talking about. Buy it, gut it, build it up, rename it.
It's still the Forum.
It could be Steve's World for all we care, and it smells fresh.
Ted, you can't put lipstick on a pig and say it's a quail. You can't do that. But Ted, even if you gut the inside of it, the outside looks just like the forum. It is what it is.
I just like the fact that him wanting to get from out of Staples Center.
Oh, I agree. I think it's a great thing. I mean, I think it's an amazing thing that he's. I mean, of course. I mean, Steve Ballmer has one of the best arena deals possible because he doesn't pay rent. The only thing that he gives up is concessions to the Lakers. I mean, he gives up that type of money, and he has last choice of home dates, but that's pretty much it. He has a sweet arena deal. I think he keeps the parking and everything else, so he makes a ton of money and does not pay rent. So I think that's all great. But to me, at the end of the day, you need your own building. Like, I don't want nothing to do with anything Lakers. I just moved out of the building where I share with the Lakers. You want to move into a building that has Laker history? I'm good. I will spend whatever it takes, get some of that taxpayer money and whatever I have to spend, because I have plenty of it through Microsoft, and build my own little palace, like you said, my own little version of Steve's World, right over by the Rams and Chargers.
So you would still have a problem with the Forum even if he knocked it down?
It's on the same property as the Forum. That's like whoever buys the Knicks, for example, off Dolan. Okay, knocking down the Garden and building something brand new. It's still the Garden, Ted. Right. That area will always be the Garden.
Right. Okay.
I mean, no matter what happens, Ted, you can call it Garden Part 7 or Garden Part 2. You can call it the Chase Center. You can call it whatever you want to call it, Citibank Arena. That area will always still be the Garden, no matter how you dress it up.
All right. So I got this topic here, and it's near and dear to both of us because at the top of this pod, I talked about where I've been, and you've talked about where you currently are. I'm going to tell you, I don't know if you were a DirecTV customer. I was one for about 13 years. For the most part, didn't have a problem with DirecTV. I knew it was going to go down at least one time each year, but I had already accepted it. But DirecTV's only, original programming channel, the audience channel, it flips to HBO Max.
Okay.
And by most standards, most people wouldn't even care because they'd be like, "Oh, okay. So what shows were on there?" Or stuff like that. It's really about two of the tenets, two of the live sports tenets that were on that channel that will no longer be on that channel. And my question is to you is what's happening with sports radio is Dan Patrick and Rich Eisen. Both of their shows would go 9 to 12 Eastern, 12 to 3 Eastern. Back to back, live talk sports radio, simulcasting across, zillions of networks and everything else like that. They both lost their deal, I think, within the same week. So now it's to a point where Dan Patrick kept his deal with Fox Sports Radio, lost his TV deal, went to YouTube. Rich Eisen turns around, he loses his TV deal, and he loses his Fox Sports Radio deal because it's easier to syndicate Cowherd's show because it's airing at the same time. Danny, what in the world is happening in sports radio?
Ted, you mentioned it before, Ted. Like we talked about at the beginning of the show how you go from sports radio, being on a radio station to podcasting. That is honestly where everything is going nowadays. I mean, even in the small, even in the non-major, the non-Foxes or ESPNs of the world, Ted, you look at local radio, and like even down here, for example, we have 2 sports stations down here. One sports station only has 3 local shows throughout the day, and they play syndicated shows the rest of the time. the ESPN radio station here, there's no morning show. All it is drive time. Everything else is they have one set of local shows. One show as Monday through Friday from 8 to 9. You have your local show from 3 to 6 or 3 to 7, and that's it. There's no morning show. Everything else is syndicated. It's to the point now where, like you said, Ted, it's cheaper to syndicate. And if you're already paying one national personality that type of money, and you can put them in every single market, just do it that way. It saves radio stations money because, let's be honest, Ted, radio stations are not making the money they used to anymore. There's so many other ways to get sports, so many other ways to do things faster, and a lot of these shows, Ted, I'll be honest with you, aren't really creative anymore. So it's not literally drawing in the listeners anymore. Everybody wants to be visual. Everybody wants to be on the, the TikTok and the Instagram things and get things done real quickly. We get sports news broken on our phone faster than they talk about on sports radio.
Right.
People watch Twitter more than they listen to radio. I can find out my entire day. I get to find out an entire day of sports scrolling through Twitter or Facebook within 20 minutes before I turn on Sports Center or turn on my sports radio station. I can go from literally my elevator at my job to my car and learn about the entire sports day before I even come out of my car to listen to any type of talk radio. So everything's microwave nowadays. So it leaves the good radio shows. I mean, we saw what happened with Bonnie Jones the other day in his show, Paulo Torre.
Oh man! What? No, it's stuff like this. I'm like, what in the world is happening? I mean, I like to, I was going to comment and say, well, I get it, Rich Eisen and Dan Patrick are dinosaurs, or Mike Francesa, who went from a 5.5-hour radio show to he's barely on WFAN for 30 minutes a night. They're dinosaurs. I get it because they're in their mid-50s, early 60s. But Bomani Jones and Pablo Torre, great show. I think they got screwed from inception.
They were part of the last stream over at ESPN under Skipper.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Listen, Ted, but it wouldn't shock me if they end up over at the Zone.
No. But, I mean, but you go from a very well put together 1-hour show. I think the main problem with that show is it wasn't live.
The timing was terrible too. They put it 4:30 in the afternoon.
Oh no! I'm talking about when it was on at when it was at 12 noon. 12 noon time, and you know how nowadays another story is breaking and they're talking about something else from in the morning. I think like a show like that has to be done live. It has to be live.
Agreed.
That's the only way. And then when it gets thrown into the other block of shows like the PTI and the Jump and everything else like that, it
gets lost in the shuffle.
It does get lost in the shuffle, and I'm just wondering, is there bias? Was there bias against them because they were too young?
I think it could be the fact they were younger than the normal folks. Because like I say, you look at ESPN's live throughout the day. Like I say, you see, Get Up. The only thing younger on the show Get Up is really the athletes. The athletes that come on. Sports Center has changed. You still have Stephen A. and Max on throughout the day. So Max the young guy, of course. Stephen A. is a grizzled veteran. Then, like I said, High Noon was a very good show, but like you said, it wasn't live. So you're talking about stuff previous to that. And really, let's be honest, Ted, I think it's a fatigue. Because if you have a show on at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's the same type of format as, your Undisputed or your First Take or any of those, by the time we get to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, what is there really left to talk about?
Well, you're beating up the same topics.
What haven't we not talked about in any type of way that we have not discussed at 7 a.m. in the morning on ESPN?
True.
I mean, I missed the days where ESPN actually had programming on after 1 o'clock.
You're talking about real programming.
Yeah, we're talking during the middle of July, it was nothing but NFL films, NFL yearbooks all through the whole month of July.
Mm-hmm.
As you're getting ready for training camp. Every day there was episodes. I mean, Ted, they had the obscure sports. Listen, I understand that, that we're paying these personalities a lot of money, but let's be honest, I have ESPN News, worst case scenario, for what, breaking news, and every other media outlet, I mean, you have Twitter, you have every other form of social media that breaks news before ESPN's television side can even get their hands on it in the first place. By the time, for example, Woj breaks a story, by the time Woj gets on ESPN to talk about it, he's done tweeted it, subtweeted it, answered 3 questions about it, and wrote the article for ESPN.com before he even hit the television set.
Yeah, that's. I think, truthfully, how do I say this? Okay, so there's a certain amount of years that separate you and I. I remember when it was a treat watching Warner Wolf, and Warner Wolf would sit there and say, "Let's go to the videotape," and he would come on at 6:45 at night, p.m. Eastern Time, and 11:45 at night. And that was your sports. You would get those small clips, and you would get a Sunday night clip of Sports Extra. This is in New York. I don't know if it was syndicated or anything else like that. But the fact that these highlights and everything is pushed to your phone, and
yep.
I mean, for you to hear from Woj or Shams or Jeff Passan or Adam Schefter, you hear through Twitter first.
Yeah, the story's broken.
The story's broken. I broke it first. I broke it first here, and that's that. And now I can do the article.
Yep.
I just the way we consume things, and it's just so. Are you telling me sports radio is coming to an end? Are you willing to say that?
I'll say it's evolving away from the FM AM dial. I will say it that way. Sports radio will never die because it just evolves into something else, whether it be podcasts, like you said, whether it be mini pods, whether it be little break-ins here and there. I don't think sports radio will ever go away because people will listen to it. They just find different ways to listen to it now. I don't know. I think maybe in 20 years, FM radio, as far as terrestrial radio for sports stations, might be going away. But the only thing that keeps sports radio stations alive really are having the actual sports teams as the focal point of the station. If you live in a market that has a major team, then yeah, of course, that's the reason why sports radio exists, because you need to have that coverage of that local team, especially if they're good. But those rural areas, I mean, Ted, it's going to be much more of a podcast area by the time it's all said and done. It's going to be the next wave of what's the new thing now when it comes to getting our sports across and be able to interact with fans and so on and so forth.
I still think it's the market. It's based on the market. I still think because, yes, Stephen A. and Skip and Shannon and all those people are national. They talk national stuff. But when you go and you had your hardcore stations like, 106.7, The Fan in D.C., or WFAN 660 up here in New York, those are hardcore fans that are looking for local team-related news that has the local team personalities.
Yep.
I think those type of stations will live. I think like the bubblegum type stations that syndicate everything, I think it's gone with the wind, because I think when you look at the syndicated stations, it's primarily based on sponsorship. It's based on, or like you said, it's solely based on budgets. But you're looking to squeeze as much as you want to squeeze out of here. But if you have that same person in 30 different markets talking about Tuscaloosa, Alabama, talking about, hey, I'm on, let's put it this way. You have a radio show, Danny, and let's say there's a station up here picking it up, and you're talking about, hey, I was just on I-4, and let me tell you the traffic, but the person in New York, the person in California is like, I-4? What the hell is an I-4? Because it's that's where I think local would live, but I think some of these shows, some of these national shows, I think that group, it's getting harder and harder. Because like you said, you have 4 stories to talk about all day. Once you talk them through, or I kind of go on a tangent right now, but let's say you're at Radio Row, and you see the same person on 6 different stations. Okay. pushing their whatever product they want to push, and you're just like, okay, this is not fun. This is not original. This is just booking this person in many different places you can see. It's just, for me, it's scary because we grew up, we were comfortable with listening to Dan Patrick. We were, we liked Rich Eisen when he was just a podcast, getting tons and tons of listens.
I mean, Ted, like I said, I'm going to show my age for this one, but like for me, my sports radio experience was Steve Zabin on 101 Sports at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Before he moved to Charlotte, being from Charlotte, I loved every second of his morning show in Charlotte. But I remember Jim Rome at night on WestwoodOne, which led into Scott Farrell on the bench, and then led into Steve Zabin in the morning.
Yeah.
I remember, like Ted, so we're showing our age. I remember Ron Barr, Sportsline USA. It was a different time.
It's funny. The last thing I want to talk about in regards with radio, WestwoodOne is no longer at the end of this month, WestwoodOne would no longer be distributing NBC Sports Radio. I don't think that was a hard decision to come by because, first of all, their programming was never great when they first went live with the station.
True.
You could tell it was disjointed. You had shows from all over. You had a different feel to it. But I tell you, within the last 2 years, what they've done to that station, the way they bastardized that station and made it just Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk, Daily Line, so you have 7 hours of live programming during the week, another 2 hours of, I'm sure that's recorded programming on the weekend. So you got 9 hours, and you got almost 159 hours of just re-airs, which is the craziest thing to me.
That just proves, like I said, Ted, that's how much money NBC threw into sports radio, because Mike Florio's show is a 3-hour show with a 3-hour repeat right after that.
Right.
Then you have
I said, which is crazy to me.
So you're paying 6 hours of Mike Florio. On top of that, you're playing a betting show as a couple hours a day. And you said that I don't think the Saturday show of Rodney Harrison was live. And then that's what, Ted, there's no programming on Sunday.
There's no programming on Sunday.
Which is amazing to me.
Like, you really, I guess their thought was, hey, we're going to wind this down.
Because I remember they were a fiery spirit, fired everybody over at NBC.
Everyone got fired. Everyone got fired. And I'm sitting here, I'm like I said, it wasn't the greatest shows on there, but at least it was a different flavor to it. Like the short-lived Brian Kinney show, which I like because he talked boxing and he talked baseball. And I was like, hey, this is great. Two things that really don't get a lot of burn on sports radio.
They don't.
Not from a national perspective.
They don't.
Hey, this is Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. This is Ted Hicks. I'm talking with Danny Thompson from 98.5 The Wire. I was about to say the website is still aroundassociation.com.
It is aroundassociation.com, and we know there's some upgrading coming. I mean, I can't wait to drop an announcement in the next week or two that something major about to start up in the next couple of weeks. So I can't wait to discuss more about the future around the association.
Your radio show is Beyond the Buzzer, which is on every Saturday, 11 a.m., 98.5 The Wire. Catch it on any way you can catch it. If you're locally in the Orlando area, you can. If I'm driving in Orlando, Dan, and I turn on my AM FM tuner, can I listen to 98.5 The Wire?
As long as you're in one of our listening areas, because, being a small community station, we do have like a 20-mile radius that we go into. But if you don't have the opportunity to listen to it, just go to TuneIn Radio and just download the 98 or download the 98.5 The Wire app, because the station has its own website and its own app, and you can listen to the show through there. You can listen to it through TuneIn, like you said. Any place that has a chance to listen to terrestrial radio, you can type in 98.5 The Wire in Orlando. You'll pop us up. We're on every Saturday. Big shout out to our good friends over at Mentality Grooming Barbershop. They're the main supporter of the show, as we say in the public realm of public radio. So, myself, Kyle Nash, which is known as the student of the game, we talk about all sports every Saturday from a local, national, and, major level every single week. So,
Danny, last topic I have for you is based on Andrew Marchand's article he dropped recently about, before we even get into the article, well, no, we'll dovetail it together. His article, Tony Romo was signed back. He signed back with CBS with that astronomical deal. Big shout out to him for understanding the craft, mastering the craft, and being able to teach a class on it. When you sign a deal like that, you are now part of that master class.
Yes, his TED Talk is all sports fans, not the fans, but for all people in sports media is waiting for his TED Talk.
Yes. So Andrew Marchand from the New York Post put out an article that said Peyton Manning to ESPN. However, with a twist, ESPN is trying to orchestrate a trade for Al Michaels to leave NBC to come to ESPN so that the booth can be Al Michaels and Peyton Manning for Monday Night Football. Are you in on that?
My thing is, what's the draft compensations?
We don't know yet. We don't know.
I mean, is NBC getting two future prospects? Are they getting a future draft choice in this? I mean, it's like when I saw that, sounds like they're going to trade out. But what? We can trade announcers now? So here's my question: does ESPN give up Booger McFarland and the Boogermobile in this deal? I mean, is this the way is this their way of saying, hey, we'll trade for Dan Patrick since his contract is up with DirecTV? We can give you Dan Patrick. when I saw it, I was like, I mean, so what? Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth will be doing Monday Night Football, and you have Tirico and Peyton Manning on Sunday nights. Whew.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. I wanted to put a spin on it. I know people, ESPN is interested in Peyton and Al Michaels. I want to put a spin on it, and I would say Collinsworth and Al Michaels to ESPN. Tirico has been on the bench. He's been on the bench waiting for 2022. 2022 is when Al Michaels' contract is up. And that's when NBC is hosting the Super Bowl in 2022. I want to flip the script and say Mike Tirico, Peyton Manning, pair them together for Sunday Night Football. I mean, Sunday Night Football already has the best package, but then you put those two together. And that was the potential deal that was trying to be put together last year when Fox Sports was trying to get Peyton, and they were trying to get Mike Tirico on loan for Thursday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
So I say go the full route, create the super team of Peyton and Mike Tirico for NBC for Sunday Night Football. But overall, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, people being traded. I mean, you can have the best – Danny, I'm going to hand this over to you, but you can have the best best play-by-play and best analysts on Monday Night Football, but if they don't have the best package,
chemistry,
it won't be worth $2.
I'll be honest with you, even if, let's just say, you put your dream team of Michaels and Collinsworth and we put Tirico and Peyton together, I don't think they're still better than Nance and Tony Romo on CBS.
Without a doubt.
I don't know what combination you can use to be better than that duo. I can't think of one. Fox isn't even close. And I mean, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are good, and they're very entertaining to watch. They do a great job, but that Nance and Romo combo, especially Romo's breaking down plays before it happens. Yeah. I mean, Peyton Manning's the only person smart enough who can actually do that, but does he have enough TV personality, enough TV swagger to do it on air? Because it's good to talk about it off air, but can you do it on air with a sense of style? And that's something Peyton has to figure out and learn himself, especially if they're dropping all that money into him.
So you have I'm not sure if you still have it, but ESPN Plus subscription. I mean,
I do.
Did you? How are the Peyton Manning details?
Peyton Manning details are. I mean, they're the reason why I got ESPN Plus.
Okay.
I mean, he's had some really, really good ones. The one on Matthew Stafford was amazing in the very beginning. I think he did Kyler Murray. He's done his share of them. Kobe took it to a whole new level when he started doing his. But the mind of Peyton Manning as a quarterback and what he sees on the field, it's almost uncanny. I mean, like I said, Tony Romo does it on a Sunday-by-Sunday basis, so you get to see his mind perspective. But watching Peyton Manning on detail, I mean, it's phenomenal. I wish they would start the baseball version of it, because I know two people who'd be perfect for baseball detail. And Ted, my two, if it's a pitcher, I'm saying Greg Maddux.
Okay.
I don't think there would be a better pitcher to break down other pitchers than arguably the pitcher with the best control in the history of baseball, at least my era of baseball.
Okay.
And as much as people don't like him, I'm going to say Alex Rodriguez on the hitting side.
Yeah.
I would love to see how A-Rod would break down Christian Yelich. I would love to see A-Rod talk about what Mike Trout sees, because A-Rod wasn't some lackadaisical hitter. He was a 300 hitter, even though with all the different things. And A-Rod has a personality to him. You love him or hate him.
The reason why I don't think it would ever be A-Rod, because I think with Detail, the reason why Detail is the way it is, you have that personality that you don't hear from anywhere else. Because like when Kobe was doing Detail, that was it. That was the only time you can hear from Kobe. Same with Peyton Manning. I mean, I know he's been. I think this is ESPN's whole bromance with Peyton Manning was let him do Detail, let him get comfortable, and we're gonna make another run at him. I think you have personalities on the show on Detail that are not going to do the car wash. They won't do Get Up on Tuesday mornings.
Yeah,
they won't
I agree.
Be on, they won't be on First Take, Wednesdays after the second segment. No, you're going to see them there, and that's it. But I could go with A-Rod. Definitely I can go with Maddox. I would be able to go with like a Roger Clemens. Someone that understands the game frontward and backward for baseball. I would love, everyone's going to hate this because, everyone hates him, Barry Bonds.
I mean, that's going to get people. That's going to get people to watch, subscribe to ESPN Plus.
Yes, you put Barry Bonds out there to do the Detail, and you're like, oh my goodness. Of course, you're going to have the people. Oh, he's a cheater. He's a cheater. He did roids. He did, PEDs. Okay, yes, but as a reclamation project, I think that would be great. I mean. Come on. I just think for something like Detail, you got to make it special, and that's same thing I feel about Monday Night Football. You got to have the right package, but you got to have. I mean, I couldn't stomach a lot of times. I would listen to WestwoodOne, Kirk Warner, do the Monday night game. And turn down the volume on the TV.
I mean, Kirk Warner would be great doing Detail.
I'm just saying, it's to that point where I'm like, yeah, you know what? I want to hear from him because I don't want to hear from these bozos that are doing, that we're doing Monday night.
And an announcer driving around on a golf cart. Got you.
Right. But yeah, that's kind of where I am. Dude, I want to tell you, we're basically at the 1 hour mark. Dude, want to thank you for coming through, as always, and
always
touching every little bit of every sport, everything about that. Hey, I got to have you back on a day when I'm talking a little politics. To get your take on your congresswoman in Florida, the
wonderful one of the sweetest people I know, commissioner, which I should not be commissioner anymore. She's moving up. She's always going to be my commissioner, Val Dennings. Such a sweet person. Yes, I know.